Hello and welcome to the Tapping into Abundant Success podcast. I am joined today with the most amazing soul ever, Mr. Andrew Rowe, and he specializes in something that you all need, which is absolutely amazing, especially when it comes to tapping into abundant success. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you over to Andrew and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you so that you can get a feel and you can listen to the energy and move forward with the podcast yourself. So Andrew, tell me, where are you from? What do you do? And how on earth did you get into this space?
My goodness. Well, first of all, thank you so much for what a beautiful introduction. I'm super excited to be here. Just a little side note, it's Rowe and not Row.
Oh, sorry.
But no problem whatsoever. At least you pronounce my name properly because the French they don't know how to pronounce my name. And so that actually brings me to where am I from? So I was born in Switzerland. I grew up in France. My mum is Canadian and my dad's Irish and British. So I'm really a citizen of the world. I know how wanky that actually sounds, but I I don't actually have a place that I'm from. So when I was growing up, I was very close to my mum, so I really identified with my Canadian roots. Yet I had never lived in Canada, and I have no French passport. Yet I lived my whole life in France. But now I would consider myself British just because I lived in England the longest now, and it's pretty cool. I quite like being British. It's quite nice. It's funny actually because I never really wanted to be British because I didn't have a great relationship with my father, and he was very British, and he always used to say that the TV I watched was American drivel, and so of course I watched more of it because it just pissed him off. And then as I got closer to him, I started to realize actually it's not a bad thing being British. It's actually kind of sexy. British accents are quite sexy, right? So what do I do? So I'm a limiting belief expert. So my magic, my thing, what I do is I help people shift their limiting beliefs that are preventing them from living their most abundant, aligned, and authentic life. And how I do that is I'm able to tap into people's energy, kind of listen to their self-talk, but also listen to what's going on a little bit within them. And then from that, being able to identify what are their main limiting beliefs and how that's linked to their childhood or sometimes even past lives. And so we do a combination of kind of talking therapy, but then also we use kinesiology, so muscle testing to see whether the beliefs are real or not. And then it's really about me just going into kind of a space where I just hear what needs to shift, what needs to change. And I work with like the highest vibrational beings and a lot with angels as well. So that's kind of what I do. It's really hard to kind of explain until you've actually experienced it. But like every session is just like amazing, tangible, life-changing results. And my purpose and how I got here is kind of an interesting story because I wasn't always like this, Vicky. I was definitely, I've always had some kind of spirituality, having grown up as a Catholic. But then obviously as a gay, I'm like, I don't want to be Catholic because I'm going to burn in hell. So I'm going to leave that swiftly as possible. And then I got to university and then started to play around with like drugs and, started to open my consciousness that way without even knowing what consciousness was. Like, no clue. I had no idea what everything was. And then, 2012, I had this experience with ketamine that like created a drug psychosis, which was also linked with a spiritual awakening. And so I started to see auras, I started to hear voices, I started to have all of these what would be actually seen in tribes as a real moment of, oh, this person is the healer, is the medicine man. But if from my perspective is like, oh, I'm like fucking losing my mind, I'm going crazy because there was no support for it. And so I had some really like amazing moments, but because my fear overtook the curiosity, I started to misidentify what was going on and started to believe that I was somehow evil or bad, or there was something going, like I had been possessed or all these things. And so I had convinced myself that I was evil. I had convinced myself that I was basically like a bad person that deserved to be punished and all that jazz. And so I became paranoid. I wasn't able to look at people in the eyes. I wasn't able to leave my house if there was a car that was red. It just got really pretty intense. And the voices said that I couldn't go get help because angels would die. So I was really stuck in this place where it was like I had only two options. It was either I take my life, and that option just felt so good and so many times because I just was so scared all the time, and I just couldn't. It was too hard to live. Or I just do something about this. I find the will within me to live, and I find the will within me that I am light and that these are just thoughts. And of course, I chose the latter, and went on this journey of trying to figure out, well, who is Andrew? Like, who is Andrew? What does Andrew like? What does Andrew want to be? And so, I was an actor, and I thought I was going to be the next big thing. And actually, in hindsight, acting was an amazing enabler for me for my emotions and helping me deal with a lot of my trauma, but actually caused a lot of pain and suffering because I constantly was worrying about whether I was good enough or good looking enough, or if I sounded good enough, or all these kind of things. And it just perpetuated limiting beliefs that I already had within myself. And so I went on this journey of finding myself through spirituality. So, first with yoga, then with angel and oracle cards, then Reiki, then NLP. And I then started to do, theta healing, oneness practice, and all these different modalities. And at the time, I was also teaching English to refugees and asylum seekers. And I was really at a place in my life where I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not happy with my acting. It's not moving forward. And I was like, but I feel like I'm destined for something. I feel like I'm here for greatness, but what is this greatness? And I was like, I really love spirituality. I really love the magic that comes from it, the communication that we have from it. And when I was doing these modalities, the reason that happened was because I basically asked for it. I just said to the universe, I want to break. And I slipped my disc, and here you go. I was doing that. And when I went back to work, I had done so much work on myself around my belief systems and around, my relationship with my parents and my relationship with the universe and all of these things, that I went back with a much more positive attitude. And I was like, Andrew, you're changing people's lives. You're helping refugees and asylum seekers. Like, this is amazing. Like, you should be so grateful for what you have. And the attitude of gratitude was a real game changer for me. And it had nothing to do with my acting. Like, my acting didn't shift and stuff. But what I noticed was I had more and more people coming to me wanting to have healings. And, I wasn't charging for them. I was just doing that because of for funsies. And, before I know it, March 2021, I set up my business. And yeah, within 3 months, I had 150 clients. And within a year and a half, I was at six figures. And I've helped hundreds of people go through what I wish I had when I was going through what I was going through. And not necessarily that people I work with, none of them have ever had any psychosis, but actually what they have had is a lack of understanding and remembering who they truly are at core. And so I've gone on to this, my dharma, my purpose, to help people remember that they're loved, and that whatever they've experienced, whatever they have done, it doesn't define who they are. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And that is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. There's a couple of things I wanted to pick out, and you were just so in your flow that I just didn't want to disturb the flow of the context. I've actually forgotten some of the things that I was going to ask you.
No
But
worries.
I just wanted to touch base a little bit on the story of, I've noticed quite a lot with people that are successful. So obviously, this podcast is all about tapping into abundant success. And one of the themes that I see, especially with the individuals that I interview, is there's always a catalyst moment. There's always a moment of, I've been through the shit, I've been stuck in the shit, I've tried to navigate my way in the shit, and then eventually decided I needed to get out of the shit. And there's this story that a lot of successful entrepreneurs have gone through that shit time before they blossom and bloom, right? So what advice would you give, being the absolute magical whiz with limiting beliefs, right? What advice would you give to anyone listening or watching along to this today who is maybe in the shit of the funk at the moment, and they're looking to have that inspiration of, it's not always going to be this way. I can step forward. I can move in the right direction. What would you say to someone who is right in the thick of it right now, who just needed that little bit of hope, that little bit of inspiration, that little bit of, well, if they can do it, then so can I?
I would say never give up on yourself, and remember that everything that you're experiencing is happening for you in some shape or form. And you may not be able to see the wood from the trees at the moment, but when it comes to 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you'll start to understand why you're actually experiencing what you're experiencing. And if you can have that attitude that it's happening for you and not to you now in this present moment, you will shift out of the shit a lot quicker, because you will no longer be in that victim mentality. You'll no longer be in like, poor me, this is so hard. And you'll be moving into, actually, I'm the hero of my own story. I've created this script, so I can rewrite it. I can change it in however way I want to. And I'd say that would be my biggest like advice, is just don't forget that you are light, and that we are all light. And that even though you're experiencing hardships at the moment, even though things are difficult, this will never take away of who you truly are, which you're worthy, you're good enough, you're perfect as you are. And if it is bringing up those limiting beliefs, if it is bringing up those fears, those worries, then celebrate it. Because the fact that it's being brought up, it means that your consciousness and your unconsciousness are trying to work together in order to help you evolve and order to help you move on. And sometimes it may not feel like it. Sometimes it may feel like everything's against you, but actually these are all beautiful invitations for you to shift, to adapt, to grow. So yeah, I'd say that's what I would.
I totally love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And you know, sometimes even when you're not in the thick of it, you still need that little reminder. So to anyone that is watching and listening, take that on board and run with it today. Reignite that fire within. Keep going. Keep finding that passion, and listen to Andrew's message. But before we wrap up this beautiful interview today, we've got something really exciting to share. And I'm really excited to share. Andrew is going to be one of the guest speakers, the keynote speakers inside the Spiritual Entrepreneurs Business Summit happening in July. But Andrew, can you share with us a little bit about what you're going to do? Because you've shared a lot about your story, how you've evolved, how you've transformed, how you've succeeded, beyond succeeded, anything that you ever imagined. And you are seen as a leader in your field. But what could people expect from this amazing session that you're going to deliver in the summit?
I think they're going to understand and learn about the power that we all possess within ourselves, and that every single person that they see successful around them is just a mirror of what's possible for them. And that there's no one that is more special than any other human being. It's just about what we're able to unlock within us. And in the session that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be focusing a lot on limiting beliefs and how we can shift our limiting beliefs, but also lead a healing as well, to help release and reignite and restabilize the energy, just so that we can start to embody more light, so that we can live with more abundance, more alignment, and more authenticity.
Amazing. How exciting is that, right? Oh, just I can feel the energy. I can feel the activations are all coming together beautifully. So I'm going to wrap it up there. So Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being an inspiration. Thank you for sharing your light.
Oh,
And
thank you, Vicki.
for those that are watching and listening, thank you for tuning in. We see you in the summit. Bye-bye for now.
Yes. Bye.